With the development of information age, vertical formats has become the usual choice for online video content creators and users. The prevalence of vertical formats leads to the increasing demands of vertical video. In 2019, filmmakers Clayton Race exposed vertical films production in filmmaking theory for vertical video production. However, even though there's research around, there's still a gap of research in vertical animation production, which drives my research question. What is the potential of animated narrative in the vertical format, and what are its limitations? The aspect ratio of vertical animation is 9:16 instead of the traditional 16:9. Although the switch from the horizontal to vertical represents a shift in the convention, the format change is not in itself a new phenomenon. The predominant aspect ratio has changed throughout the history of the cinema and according to the genre. For instance, 2.35 to 1 is used extensively for fantasy and adventure narrative, and 1.85 to 1, a slightly narrower ratio, is a common choice for comedy and dramatic films. This shows that the aspect ratio can really impact the narrative and have done throughout the history of the cinema. The vertical format in animation narratives is therefore worthy for further study. In recent years, some animation creators have begun to experiment with vertical screen animation. Vertical animation has to use different strategies from those of its horizontal counterpart because it has spatial constraints. As a result, it's more about framing through the front and the back of the composition, and this staggering of the elements make the picture visually attractive. Also, the extra space of the top and the bottom in the vertical screen is often used to advance the animated narrative. Furthermore, the narrow space of the vertical video can be a unique advantage. The push-check shots create a stronger sense of the tension and pressure than the horizontal animation. In particular, the lack of the space on both sides of the screen's width leads to visual concentration in the center of the screen, which provides the viewer for a more immersive viewing experience. To explore more about the potential and the limitation of vertical animation, I embarked on a practice-based method to convert my 2D horizontal animation Booba vs. Kiki into vertical format and compare the two versions. First, the composition. A few coexisting characters can fit the screen in the horizontal formats to give the compositional balance, but because the narrow space of the vertical formats makes the screen cloudy and less aesthetic, animation in these formats need to cut out unimportant information and reconsider the spacing and the size of the character. It's crucial to keep the composition simple in the vertical format because the appearance of the excessive elements in the narrow space will usurp the role of the subject. Second, camera movement. There is plenty of room for extreme movement in horizontal space, but the spatial disadvantage of vertical formats means that the character is off-screen most of the time. Camera movement is a way to solve it. In vertical composition, the top and the bottom space are used for movement to create a more concise motion check. As a result, the camera only needs to pan to follow the characters, then it can show the characters' movement smoothly and clearly in the vertical space. The third feature of vertical screen composition is that it allows for a better immersive experience in the narrow space. Having a subject move towards or away from the camera instead of moving horizontally across the frame can have an even greater effect when used in the vertical composition. Especially, the phone is closer to the audience than the TV or cinema screen, which interact more immediately with the audience. This study demonstrates that vertical composition needs to be precise with the framing and composition. In addition, it is important to keep the ideal framing concise with the clear movement. Many regular rules regarding the horizontal composition still apply to the vertical composition, and some of them even have unique potential in the vertical format. But because the research in the vertical animation still in its infancy, animators in all the films should be encouraged to further expose the format's possibilities.